Hey everyone, this is Bridget, and today I want to share the most powerful ascension technique that you need to know. Now, I'm not just BSing you on this, I promise. It really is the most important thing that I have found that will be helpful for you as you move and navigate through these different energies as we spiritually awaken, as well as there's a changing environment, like the world, culture, humanity, contact, like what are we going to do, right? So there's a lot happening. So what's going to be the most helpful thing for you to develop or for you to be aware of to be able to handle it, right? And to be able to actually thrive in it and to also be able to hold space for other people going through it. Now, what it is the ability and the technique to become adaptable. And adaptability is very well known in kind of like Chinese medicine. That's where the term really comes from. But what it actually means is the ability to adjust to a new condition, a new situation, right? So it's the ability to be adaptive. And this is so critical. So I'm going to share quite a few different techniques and ways that you can develop this ability to be adaptable so that honestly you can thrive through this ascension and not have a bunch of challenges come up. But whatever you're faced with, you can handle it, all right? So let's get into it. So what we're wanting to do is build this resilience, and we have teachers for this in the plant and mineral kingdoms and the elemental kingdoms that can assist us through this. So the first way that actually is coming up to talk about first is utilizing the cold-hot technique. You've probably heard of like Wim Hof and like the technique of like cold plunges and stuff like that. But being able to go to extremes within healthy containers, right? So that's really the foundation of this. Is we need to practice it so that in our real day, everyday lives, when crap comes up, like we can do it. So that means we need to practice for these occasions. And so what we can do is set up different simulations, right? Or different situations to do this. And when our body is adaptable, our body then kind of helps dictate our state. And if our state is then adaptable and used to this, it's conditioned for this, we can thrive when we're faced with this situation in real life. So a particular example would be the hot-cold idea when it comes to using extreme like heat, like going in a sauna and then doing like a cold plunge, or just being in a normal situation and continuing to do, say, like the conditioning of the cold, right? And so this puts our body actually through extreme drastic change, which really builds the immune system. It cultivates, it creates resilience within our own body, which then translates not only to that, because when you're having to do a freezing cold plunge in the middle of winter, that actually takes a lot of mental and emotional resilience and focus. So as we're doing these kinds of practices, it might be like, well, this is just my body doing it. And it's like, no, you're showing up on all different levels. This is actually building the muscle of resilience within your energetic structure, which is incredibly powerful. So that's one really good technique that's very helpful to use. You can check out like Wim Hof's work and like the cold plunging work. I particularly love to do the hot cold with like a hot sauna or like a sweat lodge, and then like the cold plunge. And especially as it's getting warmer, it'll be easier to play with this. But challenging yourself, maybe even if it's just like the last 10 seconds of your shower, turning on the cold water and being like, all right, I can do this. And building that mental and energetic strength, and of course the body getting used to these extreme states, going back and forth and being able to shift very, very quickly. So that's a really good way. Now we have some allies in this adaptability game with us from the plant kingdom and from the mineral kingdom, whose qualities, whose natures, whose essence, whose magic, whose medicine is honestly to teach us adaptability, to modulate and moderate our energy so that it comes back to balance. And it's so freaking cool. Like I'm really into this kind of stuff, as you can see. And it really has the ability. So for instance, let's go into the herbs here for a second in Chinese medicine, and this is what you can kind of explore and investigate for yourself, because there's many, many different herbs that you could take in tincture form, in tea form. Those are the main things I'm thinking of right now, that will help you do this. And so, for instance, a great basic one that you maybe saw in my winter food video was gynostemma, which is in spring dragon tea. And so what it does, what these adaptabilities herbs do, is if you're in a state that's, which I was talking about on my Instagram live yesterday actually, is that if you're in a state, a lot of people are asking about anxiety, right? And you're like frazzled, or you're anxious, or you're feeling that energy. What these herbs can do is bring you back actually into calm. Or if you're kind of just like too chilled out to where you're complacent, maybe depressed, don't want to do anything, it will actually bring you back into having more energy. So it balances you to whatever extreme that you're needing. And I find this actually, because technically cacao in its pure form is an adaptogenic. And so, funny enough, even though it is caffeinated, sometimes if I have it, but I actually do need to rest and sleep, it'll put me to sleep because it's adjusting me back to balance. So I really suggest going and exploring some of these herbs. So spring dragon tea is just an easy one. It's inexpensive. It's really amazing from Dragon Herbs. You can just go get it, have it every morning. And the thing is too about these is that it's all about consistency and longevity for these things to work. So we're in this for the long run. It's subtle, but it builds, and I promise you it does. And so I would suggest, tracking and actually being like, I'm going to do 90 days of this. I'm going to do 180 days of this. This is what the Chinese suggested, and we have to follow that. So it's not just like a quick fix, but long term in your subtle body and in your energy, it will rebalance you. And I've been playing with this through the form of reishi mushroom, which is another great adaptogenic herb, as are all of the medicinal mushrooms. And one of the things that, again, it said, and this really develops like the spiritual balance and bringing in the Shen higher energies into your energetic system. And we've been using the Four Sigmatic reishi every night before we go to bed, I think for about 4 or 5 months now consistently, and we really have felt this new layer of that subtle energy, this entrainment come in. And so these plants are teaching us how we can shift our energy. And so there's lots of different kinds. I love Schisandra, especially for women, that you can play with. So choose one and then be consistent with it and just go for it, okay? So there's many different herbs that can teach us this. Now there's also very many different stones that can teach us this as well. And my friend Melanie from Ask Angels has been talking a lot about indigo gabbro, which she loves so much, and I love too. But there's a few different stones, so I'll just quickly talk about a few here. Indigo gabbro is really good for this adaptogenic quality that can balance and recenter us. Ocean jasper, this is such a beautiful one. It's quite charging, but at the same time it does have this adaptogenic quality. This looks like rose quartz, but it's actually a hematite rose quartz. It has iron in it, so it's this an iron, if you've heard me talk about it, has this movement kind of activating energy, but there's this yin balancing energy of the rose quartz, which then brings us back into balance. So those are some really amazing crystals that you can use to come back into this balance, and that can help with this energetic entrainment and teach you. But ultimately, really, it is up to us, right? It is up to us to be able to handle it. Video with my partner Patrick on triggering, because this is the biggest thing, right? When we are faced with a situation, whatever it is, like a person pissed at you or an amazing opportunity, which has been the case for me in this past week, we have to rise to that occasion, and we have to continue to stay neutral and continue to stay centered in our energy so that we can step forward into whatever, our reflective mirror of synchronicity brings us, and to work with. If it's a challenge or if it's a great thing, we have to be ready for that. And so in that space, really cultivating our ability to stay centered at no matter what energy is coming at us, and to stay emotionally balanced within our own center in engaging with other people, which has a lot to do with triggering. So I'll post that video, which is going to be really helpful because it's something I will say that Patrick and I have really developed. Not fully mastered, but we've really developed over the years. And so I'm really excited to give you those specific techniques, because that's what it's all about. It's It's understanding how to come back to emotional center, when to use this energy of driving forward, when this energy to pull back, to stay neutral, to stay centered at whatever comes up, because the world is changing. Crap will probably happen. As humanity expands and is seeing more of itself, just like a cleanse, the crap needs to come up to detox out of us, needs to come to the surface, needs to come to conscious awareness. So some of this stuff might come up, but when it does, we'll be ready. We'll be centered. We'll be ready for anything. You know what I mean? So it's really about developing and being just hyper aware of that. And so utilizing your everyday life, because this is what it really is. Your everyday life is like a simulation game, preparing you for what's to come next. And so utilize it like that. If something comes up that's challenging, whatever that is, like your tax bill or I don't know, a person or a lot of energy, so much to handle, those kinds of things, be like, ooh, yes. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to stay centered, equanimous, and balanced. And it truly is. And a really great way, obviously, to develop this ability is to quiet our mind. And I have a video about this with my meditation experiment, which is really, really fun, that developing the ability to do receptive meditation, which means some kind of Vipassana meditation or Zen meditation, which means you're not visualizing. And you're letting the mind be still, and you're letting those thoughts move through to where you can get to a place of quiet. Okay, this takes a lot of practice, but even some ability to be able to do that will help you in these situations, so that all of a sudden, if this triggering situation occurs, or this outside condition is wild, or this energy happens, you have the eye of the storm, the stillness within you, to remain balanced no matter what comes up. And that is the most valuable technique and skill at this stage of Earth's transformation. Seriously, like through this whole life, if there's one skill that you could develop, this is the most important one for you, because it will carry you through everything, because no matter what happens, you will be ready, and you will be within you to handle any situation that comes up. So those are just a few tips in which you can utilize this. Another one that just came to mind, because I was like, okay, anything else? Scanning, is yoga. And the practice in yoga, which we do in our class, which many different techniques do this, we do the vinyasa flow, right? And you all of a sudden go from kind of like the warrior series, which is more driving, and then all of a sudden you go straight into yin. And then you go straight into shavasana, stillness, quiet, right? Then all of a sudden you're back up, and then you're doing some other exercise, right? So it's this entrainment of the nervous system, which is really, really key. But once we integrate it into our body, into our energetic system, into our etheric body, as well as our mind and our emotions, we are unstoppable, and we can really thrive. And then in that space, we can help other people in that. So I really hope that you go forward with this, and please share this technique with other people. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and hit that bell button for notifications every time I do new videos. And I will see you next time with another video.